Okie dokie. Bear with me a second. Hold on. This can work. It's supposed to work. I didn't I didn't test my GoPro before I went live. Oh, there we are. Fabu. Okay, good. Excellent. I'm framed up. Framed up just the way I like it. All right. What's up? We are having at it. Okay, if you haven't been catching anything that I've been talking about on Instagram or here on YouTube or on Facebook, which would be because of Instagram. So I'm going to be doing another appearance on Awaken Your Mind channel. And I'm going to have Tom Althouse is going to be interviewed by Derek and I, and we're going to see who wants to come on in a panel fashion. So it'll be Derek, I, and special guests to be announced. So you're not going to want to miss this one, because if any of you fuckers have been paying attention, this is bullshit that actually fucking matters when you understand. You see, looking at the situation of Tom Althouse's life in context to what they robbed him of. It's very much this. It's this big demonstration of a major aspect of the first veil, right? It's straight up giving you the entire just nature of all of the dark sorcery that has engulfed the first veil of consciousness. And that's a big reason why I'm reading Heidegger, because Heidegger gets into serious details. So, let's get into some of Heidegger's details. All right. Oh, let's get back to the page I am meant to be on. There we are. So, we're going to be reading 70 and 71 today. 70 is not too long. 71 is kind of long, but once we get to the end of 71, we will be at the end of the section, and that'll be a good place to leave us off for the next part to the Heidegger reading series. All right. Let me quench my thirst. 70. The temporality of the spatiality that is characteristic of Dasein. Though the expression temporality does not signify what one understands by time, when one talks about space and time, nevertheless, spatiality seems to make up another basic attribute of Dasein's corresponding to temporality. Thus, with Dasein's spatiality, existential temporal analysis seems to come to a limit, so that this entity, which we call Dasein, must be considered as temporal and also as spatial coordinately. Has our existential temporal analysis of Dasein thus been brought to a halt by that phenomenon with which we have become acquainted as the spatiality that is characteristic of Dasein, and which we have pointed out as belonging to being in the world, right? You know, this gets into the question of transcending ordinary reality, as Carlos Castaneda talks. If in, There we go. If in the course of our existential interpretation we were to talk about Daseins having a spatio-temporal character, we could not mean that this entity is present at hand in space and also in time. This needs no further discussion. Temporality is the meaning of the being of care. Dasein's constitution and its ways to be are possible ontologically only on the basis of temporality, regardless of whether this entity occurs in time or not. So something can be temporal but not be in time, which is interesting to say the least. And then to say that care has a temporal nature and not a spatial nature, which is odd to me. I suppose care doesn't have a spatial nature if, like, the only thing that qualifies as caring is being so close that you are present in hand? Is that effectively the idea that Heidegger is getting at, with the temporal nature of care that doesn't have a spatial relation? I mean, I think there's space to care. Like, people are talking about right now, 15-minute city situations, and the comparison to the compact living quarters that are considered acceptable for low-income persons that live in, like, China, sometimes even in Japan, and it's dignified to a certain degree, but it's like that scene in the fucking Blues Brothers, where, just like, there's only, like, room for one of them to lay their entire body down. The other one has to, like, kind of, like, sleep on a chair. There's no room at all. Like, there's no care put into that kind of living accommodation, right? And like, the thing is that in the Blues Brothers, you're talking about old buildings and the American way of wanting to, design your property in the way that you see fit, and see who wants to do such a thing within reason. You're not making it unsafe on a certain level. Or maybe you are because it's off the books, but it's like we were not so foolish back then. There weren't a whole lot of people so dumb as to go, and thus nobody did it that bad because it wouldn't have made any money. Then we got dumber, and then that started happening. But to see it deliberately designed that way, as both the modern answer and to project into the future, right? It's just new materials for the same concept of, like, the projects, right? There's just something about the infrastructure of, like, the way the old school projects are built that just, it's like pre-brutalist architecture. It's like, it's not brutalist yet, but, like, it kind of feels brutal. And that's what I never liked about those places. And it was hard to know what to do or say about it. But anyway. Hey, what's up, Violence? Okay, if in the course of our existence... Okay, I'm sorry, reading that. The temporality, okay, hence the signs. I think I was right is in time or not. Okay, so hence Dasein specific spatiality must be grounded in temporality. On the other hand, the demonstration that this spatiality is existentially possible only through temporality cannot aim either at deducing space from time, or at least dissolving it into pure time. If Dasein's spatiality is embraced by temporality in the sense of being existentially found upon it, then this connection between them, which is to be clarified in what follows, is also different from the priority of time over space in Kant's sense. To say that our empirical representations of what is present at hand in space run their course in time as psychical occurrences, so that the physical occurs immediately. Now, he doesn't say immediately, he says mediately in time. Also, is not to give an existential ontological interpretation of space as a form of intuition, but rather to establish ontically that what is psychically present at hand runs its course in time. Yeah. It's very early on. I'm just towards the beginning of the first of 2 chapters that'll get us to the close of a section. We must now make existential analytical inquiries as to the temporal conditions for the possibility of the spatiality that is characteristic of Dasein, the spatiality upon which, in turn, is founded the uncovering of space within this space within the world. We must first embrace in what way Dasein is spatial. Dasein can be spatial only as care, in the sense of existing as factically falling. Negatively, this means that Dasein is never present at hand in space, not even proximally. Dasein does not fill up a bit of space as a real thing or item of equipment would, so that the boundaries dividing it from the surrounding space would themselves just define that space spatially. Dasein takes space in. This is to be understood literally. All right, he's not saying literally in an ironic way. He's like saying literally in a very serious way, because nobody spoke the way idiots speak today back then in Germany. All right, what? I highlighted you. Stay highlighted. All right, thank you. Das Dasein nimmt im welchen Verstand Raum ein. The expression nimmt Raum ein would ordinarily be translatable as occupies space or even takes up space. But Heidegger is here interpreting it in a way which is closer to the root meaning. It is by no means just present at hand in a bit of space which its body fills up. In existing, it has already made room for its own leeway. It determines its own location in such a manner that it comes back from the space it has made room for to the place which it has received. Existierend hat is sich schon einen Spielraum eingerannt, es bestörend je seinem eigenen Orzo, dass es aus dem eingerahmten Raum auf den Platz zurückkommt, den es belegt hat. This passage can be read in several ways. Spielraum, our leeway, means literally a space or room for playing. The expression belegen einen Platz ordinarily means to book or reserve a seat at a theater or some other place of entertainment. Ooh, Now I know how to go to the movies in Germany. All right. But in a more general and basic sense, belegen, which is a word of many meanings, can also mean to spread something over something else so as to occupy it completely, as one spreads a slice of bread with butter or covers a wall with plaster. On Einraumen, see our notes. To be able to say that Dasein is present at hand at a position in space, we must first take auffassen, this entity, in a way which is ontologically inappropriate, nor does the distinction between the spatiality of an extended thing and that of Dasein lie in the fact that Dasein knows about space for taking space in. Das Raum einnehmen is so far from identical with a representing of the spatial that it is presupposed by it instead. Neither may Dasein's spatiality be interpreted as an imperfection which adheres to existence by reason of the fatal linkage of the spirit to a body. On the contrary, because Dasein is spiritual, and only because of this, it can be spatial in a way which remains essentially impossible for any extended corporeal thing. Dasein's making room for itself is constituted by directionality and disseverance. How is anything of this sort existentially possible on the basis of Dasein's temporality? The function of temporality as the foundation for Dasein's spatiality will be indicated briefly, but no more than is necessary for our later discussions of the ontological meaning of the coupling together of space and time. To Dasein's making room for itself belongs the self-directive discovery of something like a region. By this expression, what we have in mind in the first instance is the whither, for the possible belonging somewhere of equipment which is ready to hand environmentally and which can be placed. Whenever one comes across equipment, handles it, or moves it around or out of the way, some region has already been discovered. Concernful, being in the world, is directional, self-directive. Belonging somewhere has an essential relationship to involvement. It always determines itself factically in terms of the involvement context of the equipment with which one concerns oneself. Relationships of involvement are intelligible only within the horizon of a world that has been disclosed. Their horizontal character, moreover, is what first makes possible the specific horizon of the whither of belonging somewhere regionally. The self-directive discovery of a region is grounded in an ecstatically retentive awaiting of the hither and thither that are possible. Making room for oneself is a directional awaiting of a region, and as it is equiprimordially a bringing close, dissevering of the ready-to-hand and present-at-hand out of the region that has been discovered beforehand, concern comes back disseverantly to that which is closest, both bringing close and the estimating and measurement of distances within that which has been dissevered and is present at hand within the world, are grounded in a making present belonging to the unity of that temporality in which directionality, too, becomes possible. Because Dasein as temporality is statico-horizontal in its being, it can take along with it a space for which it has made room, and it can do so factically and constantly with regard to that space which it has ecstatically taken in the here of its current factical situation. large BZW situation. Never signifies a position in space, but signifies rather the leeway of the range of that equipmental totality with which it is most closely concerned, a leeway which has been opened up for it in directionality and disseverance. Uncleft beholding, Violence is saying. Okay, cool, thank you. Whoops. Oh, wait. Hold on, I've lost the place. Wait. Closely concerned leeway for direction, disseverance. Oh, I thought I skipped the page. I'm okay. Okay. That's the bottom of the page. That's why. Okay, bringing close possible the kind of handling and being busy which is absorbed in the thing one is handling. In der Sache aufgehend. And in such bringing close, the essential structure of care, falling, makes itself known. In falling, and therefore also in the bringing close, which is founded in the present, the forgetting which awaits leaps after the present. This is what is distinctive in the existential tempora what? Is that right? No. Aufgehend. Yes. Being busy. The existential temporal. Okay, there was an L at the end there. It's just like tempora and temporal. I don't know if they mean the same thing. Oops. Constitution of falling. Then I gotta read this, maybe. Hold on. Nah, it's just German. I don't gotta read it. When we make something present by bringing it close from its thence Sinnendorfer, the making present forgets the yonder, das dort, and loses itself in itself. Thus it comes about that if observation of entities within the world commences in such a making present, the illusion arises that at first only a thing is present at hand. Here, of course, but definitely in a space in general. Only in the basis of ecstatico-horizontal temporality is it possible for Dasein to break into space. The world is not present at hand in space, yet only within a world does space let itself be discovered. The ecstatical temporality of the spatiality that is characteristic of Dasein makes it intelligible that space is independent of time, but on the other hand, this same temporality also makes intelligible Dasein's dependence on space. A dependence which manifests itself in the well-known phenomenon that both Dasein's interpretation of itself and the whole stock of significations which belong to language in general are dominated through and through by spatial representations. This priority of the spatial in the articulation of concepts and significations has its basis not in some specific power which space possesses, but in Dasein's kind of being. Temporality is essentially falling, and it loses itself in making present. Not only does it understand itself circumspectively in terms of objects of concern which are ready at hand, but from those spatial relationships which making present is constantly meeting in the ready to hand as having presence. It takes its clues for articulating that which has been understood and can be interpreted in the understanding in general. Right, there's a hint of the nature of time and space, just like the unfolding of a story, right? When you're telling a story, you have to speak one thing at a time, right? if you're writing something down, you could possibly play with your passage structure as a whole to somehow make it where you're reading two things or so at the same time, by having like certain interesting kind of spacings and fontings to guide your eye in particular ways where you're reading dual sets of different facts simultaneously, and you can process that just fine because of words on paper and running that significance through your mind. You know, as opposed to what this is, where you got to hear the one clear audio signal, thus my voice to your ears via the medium of microphones, electrical and digital signals translated to speakers to your ears. Okay? And as long as there's nothing interfering with the middleman, we have achieved a coherency in conversation, right? This puts the space between us and it compresses it to the device that's right in front of you. Right? And thus, space doesn't even have to mean quite the same thing, right? And, you know, Heidegger wrote this in a time of broadcasting, right? So, like, what did it mean for the existential being brought in through what can pick up an invisible signal and translate it into sound? Right? This is kind of understood as a remarkable phenomenon in human experience. It's OGD Pearly Gay. What's up, Pearl? Hey, everybody, check out my interview with Pearl Jones here on my channel. It was the last interview I did, but the ones who attract spirits, and we had a good old conversation about her paranormal activities and how she handles it, conversations that she's had with said characters. And we talk a little bit about left-hand path stuff, and it's good stuff. Anyway. So before I go to our break, I just want to absorb a little bit of this for a second, right? As he's going over, you know, his understanding of the time and space in which this thing comes into its presentness, right? And it's just like a space could theoretically be frozen in time if it can exist without change, right? Or what you can do is that you can make time mean nothing but be on a loop. So there's time in your space, but that time repeats itself constantly. It feeds back to itself. And we're going to do it tomorrow. And then we're going to do it again tomorrow. And it's going to happen again tomorrow. And you're going to be surrounded by all these things tomorrow. And you're going to have all these same options again tomorrow. And you can look 3 more times. You can't find any more options than all these options that you're going to have tomorrow. Right? And people get stuck into that feedback loop on the 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. And that's where they get their dungeon programming in, right? And a lot of people's behaviors are reinforced by numerological practices, putting them on those pathworks unconsciously, which then makes them very manipulatable with those that can see what arcane expression is being told through their ability to read you, and to read you better than you can read yourself over time. Anyway, once again, over time. So that's stuff to ponder on. And let's see here. Let's keep going with these guys. I think these guys seem to be good guys. They're called CRESCENT, and it's the Order of Amenti. And I don't have lyrics yet, but like that first song you heard is called "Reciting Spells to Mutilate Apophis." So yeah. And then this one is called Sons of Manthu. Okay, that was tight. All right. This might actually be a shorter show than I thought because I think chapter 71 is only like 3 pages or something, right? So this will be easy street, and it'll be a perfect place to close it off. Yeah. I tried to find lyrics because I wanted to double check, but the cover has got Anpu with the scales of the heart and the feather. And it sounds like they're on, like, I don't know, sound pretty good to me. It sounds like they probably listen to a lot of Nile, which is what I like. Anyway, let's have back at it. So yeah, so I couldn't find the lyrics. I want to like be able to confirm all that. But I'm enjoying it for now because they sound pretty sick and they seem like they're all right. The temporal meaning of Dasine's everydayness. We have given an interpretation of some structures which are essential to Dasine's state of being, and we have done so before exhibiting temporality, but with the aim of leading up to this, our analysis of the temporality of concern has shown that these structures must be taken back into temporality existentially. At the very start of our analytic, we did not choose as our theme any definite and distinctive possibility of Dasine's existence. Our analytic was oriented rather by the average way of existing, which has nothing conspicuous about it. We call that kind of being in which Dasein maintains itself proximally and for the most part everydayness. What this expression signifies at bottom, when delimited ontologically, remains obscure. At the beginning of our study, moreover, we could not see any way of even making the existential ontological meaning of everydayness a problem. By now, however, some light has been cast on the meaning of Dasein's being as temporality. Can there still be any doubt excuse me, as to the existential temporal signification of the term everydayness? All the same, we are far removed from an ontological conception of this phenomenon. It even remains questionable whether the explication of temporality which we have so far carried through is sufficient to delimit the existential meaning of everydayness. Right, so what's he saying is, what is something that, regardless of what you kind of think is different about every single day, is exactly the same every single day? And this gets as literal as you waking up and knowing what to expect your skin color to be, what the sound of your voice is supposed to be, what the paint on your walls is supposed to be, and where all your personal effects are, right? Like, no surprises. These are unshifting aspects of the world. You go outside and you may have never seen that car go down the street before, but you see car go down the street. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but it technically counts as every day, because every day in general a car goes down the street. In fact, you drive a car down that street. And every day you experience the need to get into your car and take it somewhere. Often at a particular notice upon a clock, right? And, we see clocks all the time, right? And we can ignore the meaning of the number on the clock and say the number on the clock has nothing to do with time. But what a coincidence that it's always at this number when I have to leave after the sun rises to get to the place where I have a contract obligation so I can get money. Right? And you do that every day, because every day you'd like to do something for money. So you can take that money home and enjoy it. Or have it take care of your needs and expenses. Okay. A lot of examples. Okay, so we get it? Yeah, that's like the everydayness, right? It's those generalities and then particular details you're used to. This is why the Mandela effect rocked so many people. Right? I mean, what do you think? Do you think James True is right? Hey, what's up, Zephyr? Do you think James True is right and that it's a collective egregore? Because I think if it is, it's a collective egregore on so many fucking levels that, I really just want to keep to only people that keep it fucking real. Right? Only people that keep it fucking real. It has nothing to do with what you believe in. It has everything to do with how seriously you take your beliefs versus your judgment of character. Which is why I dared to have James True, because I think the man has good character. Everydayness manifestly stands for that way of existing in which Dasein maintains its everyday aletage. And yet this everyday does not signify the sum of those days, which have been allotted to Dasein in its lifetime. Though this everyday is not to be understood calendrically, there is still an overtone of some such temporal character in the signification of the everyday, Alltag. But what we have primarily in mind in the expression everydayness is a definite how of existence, by which Dasein is dominated through and through for life, Zittelbens. In our analysis, we have often used the expression proximally, and for the most part proximally, signifies the way in which Dasein is manifest in the with one another of publicness, even if at bottom everydayness is precisely something which, in an existential manner, it has surmounted, for the most part, signifies the way in which Dasein shows itself for every man, not always, but as a rule. Everydayness means the how, in accordance with which Dasein lives unto the day, in den Tag hinein lebt. Whether in all its ways of behaving or only in certain ones which have been prescribed by being with one another, to this how there belongs further the comfortableness of the accustomed, even if it forces one to do something burdensome and repugnant, that which will come tomorrow, and this is what everyday concern keeps awaiting, is eternally yesterdays. In everydayness, everything is all one and the same, but whatever the day may bring is taken as diversification. Everydayness is determinative for Dasein, even when it has not chosen the they for its hero. These manifold characteristics of everydayness, however, by no means designate it as a mere aspect afforded by Dasein when one looks at the things men do. Everydayness is a way to be, to which, of course, that which is publicly manifest belongs, but it is more or less familiar to any individual Dasein as a way of existing which it may have as its own, and it is familiar to it through the state of mind which consists of a pallid lack of mood. Interesting. So, in everydayness, Dasein can undergo dull suffering, sink away in the dullness of it, and evade it by seeking new ways in which its dispersion in its affairs may be further dispersed in the moment of vision, Indeed, and often, just for the moment, existence can even gain mastery over the everyday, but it can never extinguish it. Oh, wait a minute. I don't think so. Not yet. Not yet. One last page. There we go. That which is ontically so familiar in the way Dasein has been factically interpreted that we never pay any heed to, hides enigma after enigma, existential ontological. The natural horizon for starting the existential analytic of Dasein is only seemingly self-evident. Whoops. Wait, what? How to get over here? That's not right. Self-evident. Thank you. But after the interpretation of temporality which we have given thus far, do we find ourselves in any more promising a situation with regard to delimiting the structure of everydayness existentially? Or does this bewildering phenomenon make the inadequacy of our explication of temporality all too patent? Have we not hitherto been constantly immobilizing Dasein in certain situations while we have consistently, with this, been disregarding the fact that in living unto its days, Dasein stretches itself along temporally in the sequence of those days? What we got here? Haben wir Bücher nicht ständig das Dasein auf gewisse Legen und Situationen still gelegt und konsequent missachtet, dass es sich in sein Tägchenleben in der Folge seiner sichtlich erstreckt. The older editions have still gestellt rather than still geleggt. I like the first one better. It actually rolls off the tongue properly and sounds fun to say. Anyway, the it's all one and the same, the accustomed, the like yesterday, so today and tomorrow, and for the most part, these are not to be grasped without recourse to this temporal stretching along of Dasein. And it is not also a fact of existing Dasein that and it is not also a fact of existing Dasein that in spending its time, it takes time into its reckoning from day to day and regulates this reckoning astronomically and calendrically. Right. Well, because he's talking about, okay, so when he's talking about Dasein in a temporal sense, he's talking about, like this level that he's getting into is very existential, because he's asking you to understand, like, there's a season that you're in kind of situation, right? And that has its shift, right? You go from the summer world to the winter world, so on and so forth, right? It's a very analytical way of thinking about how the shaman thought, there were the four Fey courts, and each one ruled a season. You had your spring and fall transitional courts, and you had your winter and summer fixed courts, right? Like, not like fixed, but like, because they're not like the transitionals. Those are the pinnacles, of the in and outs of the heat in the world. So, it's all one and the same, the accustomed, the like yesterday, so today and tomorrow, and for the most part, these are not to be grasped without recourse to this temporal stretching along of Dasein. And it is not also a fact of existing Dasein that in spending its time, it takes time into its reckoning from day to day and regulates this reckoning astronomically and calendrically only if both Dasein's everydayness, historizing, and the reckoning with time with which it concerns itself in this historizing are included in our interpretation of Dasein's temporality. Will our orientation be embracing enough to enable us to make a problem of the ontological meaning of everydayness as such? What he's talking about there is with the historizing of things, right? It's like history can be largely summed up as that during these generations, men lived like this. However, also these events happened that broke the pattern of living like that, right? It's just like, okay, here's the Germans, they're in this situation. And then they had a whole shift in their economy and their social dynamics, and they made a bunch of industry, and they went to war, right? And so they made a really, really scary world, and so we were afraid of it, so we annihilated it. But, you know, especially because they already annihilated a bunch of people that were scaring them, now we walk a thin line because we feel like destroying them is a way to solve the problem, or controlling them, but then that just makes us what the hell we feared, and we're just driving ourselves crazy, right? And that's what's going on in the psyche of the American who is psychically charged to fucking voting right now, as they are having a conversation about how to treat each other like slaves differently. It's really sad and kind of funny when you're on this level of being like, I can't believe you're that scared of just trying to have an attitude of walking away from having such a fucking relationship with those pigs. But no, here we are, two angry men yelling at clouds. Two angry old men yelling at the clouds. Where was I? Calendrically, yada yada yada, everydayness, nothing has been... No, wait. Just before that, right? Hold on. Including Dasein to make a prominent... Okay, but because... At bottom, we mean by the term everydayness nothing else than temporality. While temporality is made possible by Dasein's being, an adequate conceptual delimitation of everydayness can succeed only in a framework in which the meaning of being in general and its possible variations are discussed in principle. All right. I think that was it now, right? Yes! Okay. Sorry if I raised my voice in your ear like that. Next time, we're going to be in Section 5, Temporality and Historicality. This will be very interesting, because now we're going to be talking about how we forge history, I suppose, through our filter of Dasein. Oh, this is going to be... Oh, this section here is going to be delicious. It's going to be so delicious. I want to just double check real quick. How much more of this book is left to go? Because there's a lot of pages that are not part of the book. Like, they're part of the book, but it's like, it's all like the notes and stuff. And so the book proper... No, it seems like it's still pretty sure. Yeah, that's all still the book. I forget how many chapters there are in this damn thing. Wow, we're still going. Woo! Okay, see, there's notes. Hold on. That's the end of the book right there, I think. 488. Looks like it's 488, right? Yeah, it's 488, and we're on... Whoops. 425. Okay. So we're what? We're like 70 65, 70 fucking pages away from being done. We got some time. It's gonna take a while. We're gonna be here. It'll probably be, unless I get a whole bunch of these done, it might be winter by the time I'm done with this fucking book as a live stream commitment. All right. Thank you guys for popping in and bringing the chat room to life. I find it so fascinating, the difference between who shows up when I'm here doing this thing, right? I almost never get poor quality, right? But my morning drives and stuff, those are getting very different people. Those are getting very different people, and I'm gonna see we'll see how this goes. We'll see how this goes because it's a little weird, right? It's a little weird. And of course, it's about a serious person like me, who is still a fun person, trying to get other fun people to be more serious, right? While letting them know I'm not trying to beat the fucking fun out of you. In fact, I'm trying to do the exact opposite. You're going to need it because this work is hard and it's scary when you're fighting them. Like, I was doing shadow work on myself while also fighting this fucking bullshit, right? And nobody ever arrives. There'll be more shadow work, I'm sure. But anyway, Jacques Cormery, being is only apparent in its absence. I believe that if you took something for granted, I think if you take things, or I think if you take your world for granted that is true, is that something that was inconceivably not going to be there anymore has now made you realize you've lost connection, right? It's just like, it's most evident with a person, right? It's the way things change when, like, divorces happen and, siblings move out of the house and, you feel this completely different orientation that makes you feel like this isn't the same place, right? Like, I've been in the same house my whole life, but this house doesn't feel anything like it did in the 90s. With not a tremendous amount of change to the freaking infrastructure itself, right? Of what it all is, with the walls and the piping and the windows and the stairs and where the doors are placed and everything else, right? But it's not a 90s room, and my experience, or an 80s room, and those were my experiences of it, was maybe late 80s, early 90s, in a very different world, especially when that middle class income was doing everything for you. Or at least was doing everything for my family. Yes. That's right. Heidegger did say that. I believe I remember him saying that a while ago in the book. I think I refuted it. I might have refuted it that way too, right? It's just about your relationship with the presence of things, right? It's just like, it's very obvious to me that my world would be very, very different if I didn't have a fucking cell phone in it, right? My world would be very, very fucking different if I didn't have my guitar here, right? Because I would have to change the way I live. My nervous system would have to get used to not having certain objects that serve certain habits, like it's craving to make music. It's craving to do the work that feeds the dopamine hit from social media to my brain, whatever. All those little things, right? That's a way that changes your world, right? It's, when you step outside of something and it's just like, big reason I don't got certain friends anymore is that I keep fucking growing and evolving, right? And some people maybe just wouldn't put it that way, or say, no, it's not the growth and the evolving, it's the fact that you believe X, Y, and Z, and that's horrible, right? Because something I said gets me kicked out of the Nuance Club, because everybody wants to live in the Nuance Club, that it's such a dog shit illusion in the first place that you're just looking for people for your social fucking credit score, right? That's all you're doing is securing your social fucking credit score. It's fine to change and to grow apart. What's not fine is to say nothing about how different you feel from somebody, and then just be real grimy about disapproval of public choices that you make. And other little stupid things to trip a person up, right? Anyway, you guys have a kick-ass night. And we'll see what's up soon, and I will give you guys... You'll get an announcement of the precise day and time of the Tom Althouse show on Awaken Your Mind soon. I'm going to make sure this time to stream it properly. I'm going to be uploading the Tom Althouse coverage, the Tom Althouse segment that I did with Derek. I'm going to get that up on this channel. It's just a lot of work. It's a big file, and I've been busy. All right. Peace.